So one thing I thought was interesting is that Dionysus was not just referred to as the one thing. He also had a lot of other names such as Bacchus, Dithyrambus, and Thunderer. And then I also thought it was meaningful how even though this is the translated text, there's still a lot of cultural references such as the decorated yoke and growing long hair as a dedication to the gods, and then later cutting it as a religious offering. And then for question 2, one value that I found was that dancing was a big way of worship. For example, the Maenads, when they danced themselves into basically a frenzy worshiping Dionysus, and then also the Corybants would dance and beat on the drums in order to protect infant Zeus, which is one of the main gods that everyone worshipped. And then a second value is that people would essentially worship these gods until they, in one way or another, went crazy. But this is also like really mainly attached to the Maenads. And so they would dance themselves into a frenzy along the mountainside, out of sight from men. And then also the people that worshipped Cybele, they would celebrate their rites and basically dance themselves into a state of ecstasy. And then for question number 3, one thing I didn't understand was the word thyrsus, but it's essentially a magical wand that was used to induce sexual desire. And these were used when worshiping Dionysus, and now I understand that they were being used to try and seduce him. And then for question number 4, the Maenads were seen as really intense female worshippers of Dionysus. And so, but Dionysus kind of actually respected them, and so he would he said that I'll join the Bacchae on the slopes of Mount Kichiron and take place in their dances, and then he said I'll lead my Maenads like an army into battle, and so Dionysus proposes to join them, but probably not in human form. But Pentheus saw the Maenads as trying to avoid the law because he outlawed all Dionysian worship after he succeeded Cadmus in Thebes, and so he essentially was lured by Dionysus and his mother and aunt, and then was accidentally killed. So maybe you can kind of see this as karma. And then women in Greek society were pretty low on the totem pole, and they were pretty much completely controlled by men, especially when it came to marriage. Their husbands had pretty much complete control over them. And then for question 5, I thought that Elvis was on the cover because he was essentially worshipped like a god, like Dionysus was at the height of his music career, and women worshipped him like the Maenads would worship Dionysus, with dancing and following him closely until it basically sent them into a frenzy. And then women often worshipped him alone with other women and away from other men. And then 2 questions that I had is, why would Pentheus outlaw the worshipping of Dionysus after he succeeded Cadmus in Thebes? And then also another question I had was, why did Cadmus have Agave look up at the stars to see Pentheus dead? And was he like trying to make her feel guilty for what had happened?